Now, John Terry is one of the most recognised, the captain, the leader and the legend at Chelsea Football Club, and will always have that status at this club. But his recent comments in a podcast with Jamie Bullard at Golf Life have sparked a massive open discussion around whether this current ownership, Clearlake BlueCo, are overlooking some of the quality and qualifications of some of the staff, the coaching staff at this football club. Now, look, I'm not surprised at all by John Terry's recent comments in a video podcast with Jamie Bullard, Golf Life, where he mentions the fact that there were opportunities that were passed away from him and given to the likes of Callum McFarlane in recent times after Enzo Maresca's sacking. He was not even considered as an option to take the team on against Man City and Fulham in those two games when Liam Rosenior was appointed, but there was that lull moment where we had the two games. And John Terry has come out in recent times now and said that he actually wasn't given an opportunity to do that. Now, some will say that John Terry hasn't really got the managerial experience. And I'm going to debunk that a little bit because this is a manager that has spent many years, many seasons at Aston Villa and a small stint at Leicester with Dean Smith as an assistant. This is a player, or now a coach, who has not only been involved in the Chelsea academy system, the under-21 system, he's got every single badge that is available in terms of qualifications. He's got everything. He's got everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. The highest level coaching badge you can think of in football, John Terry has got that. So it isn't about experience for John Terry because he's got that under Dean Smith at Aston Villa, who he actually was, and he wasn't a coach, he was a number two. He was the assistant manager to Dean Smith. This is the first time that John Terry has really spoken out about Chelsea. You know, I'm not going to say in a negative way, but definitely in a way that you have to start asking some questions because obviously, look, John Terry was a brilliant player for us. He was a brilliant defender. He's probably still the best defender, for me personally, the best defender that we've ever had in the Premier League. And I'm going to go on record to say that John Terry is the best Premier League defender of all time. I'm going to say that. But you do have to question, is it the right route for John Terry to be taken, to be kind of sitting around with the academy stuff at Chelsea, under 18s, under 21s? Is it the right thing for him to do, waiting around, hoping he gets an opportunity to now manage Chelsea Football Club one day? Because history of recent times will tell you that I don't think John Terry is even in the conversation to even be as part of the coaching staff at Chelsea currently as it stands with this ownership. Now, I'm going to read you some of the quotes from the Golf Life because I think they are important to read them. So John Terry was asked a question. Now, this is basically him talking about after Maresca's sudden exit, January 1st, New Year's Day. And then the Blues, the BlueCo, the sporting directors asked Callum McFarlane. And I want to say this as well. This is not a dig from me as a Chelsea fan at Callum McFarlane, because I think anyone who's in that position, who's more qualified than me, and maybe you guys at home that are watching this, they're more qualified. So this is not me saying that Callum McFarlane did a bad job or didn't do well, but you have to ask this question: how can someone who's got all the qualifications, who's got the experience, who's won the Champions League, won the Premier League, won FA Cups, won League Cups, understands what it means in terms of a winner's mentality? He understands all of that, John Terry. He's not just coming into this cold and fresh. He understands it. He's been around the game. He understands the dressing room. He understands Chelsea. Now, I don't understand how a player of that caliber who's, as I said, had experience as an assistant manager, had coaching experience, is being overlooked. I know the answer to this, but how is he being overlooked? I'll tell you why. Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, Begad Adbali, all three of them do not want a man like John Terry in and amongst his team. That's my theory. I think if Callum McFarlane isn't given that job and you give it to John Terry against Fulham and City, and let's say John Terry gets 6 points. Let's say he gets 6 points before that Charlton game, before Liam Rosenior takes over. Is there a shout that if he's doing well, it kind of makes Liam Rosenior's job even harder than it already is now anyway. Because if John Terry does well in those 2 games and we walk all over Fulham, we walk all over Man City in that game, which could have been a possibility, let's be honest, new manager bounce and all that. If you remember it was Frank Lampard, and Frank Lampard done exactly the same, and we ended up keeping Frank Lampard. And we'll talk about Frank Lampard in a minute, but there is a question around, did the owners don't want him around? Do the owners not want John Terry around because they understand that he has actually got the qualifications and the credentials and the experience, and they do want a yes man. They do want a Liam Rosenior who I've called on other podcasts a puppet, but they do want a bit of a yes man around them that they can control and manipulate. I don't think that's John Terry. I don't think John Terry's taking any nonsense from these owners and these sporting directors. I don't. But this is the first time John Terry's, I feel, has spoken out in a way that you have to listen a little bit, because the owners are coming under a bit of pressure from one of their own. Chelsea's legends, John Terry. Here's the quotes. He says here that he's not annoyed, but probably more frustrated because I was certainly part of that under-21s group that went over. So even if I didn't take the team, Callum took the team, did really well, got a result out of the game. I feel like I should have been part of that. Now, listen, people have got to make decisions. I love it when people make decisions and they go yes or no. Clearly, the ownership or whoever made those decisions, the sporting directors, have gone no, not to include me whatsoever. I don't know why. I think that's pretty damning. I think that's pretty damning for the fact that, and look, we could all be talking about this, and John Terry might not even want the role. But for him, and he's always said in the past that, you know, he wants to do things the right way. You know, you look at Zinedine Zidane, who went through Real Madrid C, Real Madrid B in terms of the reserves, and then went on to win 3 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid. You think about, even now, you look at Frank Lampard, you know, he's done it the hard way. You know, he went through and went at Derby, then he went to Everton, then he came to Chelsea, struggled a little bit, got us into the top 4, came back, all the rest of it. But now you look at him at Coventry City and he's doing really well there. So I think, again, Lampard's an example of, you can go away from Chelsea and you can still come back to Chelsea. And I do question, because there was a lot of talk about the Oxford United job with John Terry, whether he was going to get the job or whether he was interested. And he shot that down. He said that there was no communications with Oxford United. There was nothing in the realms of possibility for him to even get that job. But I do wonder, is John Terry doing himself a disservice by staying as a academy mentor, which he currently is, across the under-18s and the under-21s at Chelsea? Is he doing himself a little disservice by not just taking that plunge, going to an Oxford United, going to somewhere where they've just been relegated to League One next season, or a championship team that is only expected to get to mid-table, maybe the playoffs? Does he need to give himself that sort of wider area of opportunities? I mean, I use Frank Lampard as an example, but Michael Carrick's another one. You know, Michael Carrick has gone away from United, you know, season ticket holder at Old Trafford, gone away, got himself the experience, the man management experience, the in-game tactical man management experience as well. Both go hand in hand. And now he's at Manchester United doing very well as an interim, with the possibility of becoming full-time permanent manager at Manchester United. So one thing that strikes me is that, and I can't get my head around this, is the fact that, and again, this is no stain on, I just don't think Callum McFarlane, I look at him on the dugout, every game, they'll pan over to Liam Rosenior and I'll see Callum McFarlane, and maybe this is just his face, so maybe I'm being horrible, but he just doesn't look happy. He looks like he wants to be back with the under-21s. Callum McFarlane looks like he's been told, you take this job or you ain't got a job, because we're putting someone else in your job. And that's what I feel like with Callum McFarlane. Like, I don't feel like he almost wanted to take this job. So I remember the press asked him after, I think it was the Fulham game and ahead of the City game, and they asked him and said, you know, is there any conversation? And he was almost itching to get back. I think he even checked the score after the Fulham game, or maybe the City game. He checked the score of the under-21s, and I think he lost to Palace or something like that. And he's almost like, this is his baby. The under-21s is something he's working on. And to sort of take him away from that, which is probably a bit more of a meatier role, you know, you've got more to do on a day-to-day basis as the under-21 coach, the head coach. Now you've become into this sort of, you've been shoehorned in by Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart into this role. You're probably not wanting to do it. You know, you're sat there, you've got less voice in decision making. You know, you're not really doing the job that you want to do, that you've been enjoying for week in, week out, day in, day out. Now you're sat there, you look really annoyed and depressed almost on the bench as a coaching staff to Liam Rosenior. But I have to ask the question, and I'm not saying that John Terry should come in as the head coach. I'm not even saying he comes in as an assistant, but to not even consider him for 2 games with the idea that Liam Rosenior has already been appointed, he's going to be here. Why would you not give it to someone who's got the highest qualification? To me, that speaks volumes on this ownership, BlueCo. And a lot of you fans, me included, I've said that this ownership is not fit for purpose. And this is another example of them getting things wrong. Because John Terry never speaks out. If anyone can show me a video where he speaks out bad, you know, in bad light of the football club, he never does that. So for him to be coming out now, there has to be something going on behind them closed doors at Cobham that's making him come out and say this, because I'm sure he'll have to answer to the higher ups at Chelsea as to why he's come out and said this now. But he's well within his rights to, because I think it's actually right what he's saying. So yeah, I think it's nuts. I think it's absolutely bonkers. I think one of the key things maybe, and maybe if I play sort of the other side of the coin for Callum McFarlane, is maybe the owners are trying to keep things very modern and very more tactical based rather than the sort of old school style of management from when John Terry was playing. You know, I feel like with John Terry, John Terry is more of a sort of, you know, focuses on the dark arts. You know, Terry would normally focus on the tactical nuances of defending, you know, positional awareness, body shape when tackling, communication. You know, he's often he often says he wants his defenders to hate conceding, even in training. You know, John Terry is all about leadership, you know, psychological battles, you know, preparation before the game, after the game, during the game, you know. So I feel like with McFarlane, he's definitely more tactically fluid in terms of his approach. And, you know, you could see that throughout the games, you know, shifting from like a 4-2-3-1 to a 3-4-3 in the games that he got with Fulham and City. But I just think maybe that's why. I'm going to throw the word kinetic out there just so everyone knows. If you don't know about it, go and Google it, research it. But I do think that has a massive part to play. You know, kinetic energies, kinetic powers with why Callum McFarlane was chosen. But I do think, and this is a serious question, if John Terry is really, really adamant that he wants to manage Chelsea one day, if I was John Terry, and I'm not, but if I was John Terry, I would consider, especially this season, I would consider leaving the role that I'm in and going to manage a club elsewhere. Because if you're good enough for the job, you're always going to be given opportunities. Xabi Alonso turned down Liverpool, ended up at Real Madrid, didn't work out. Now he's been tipped, if Slot doesn't do well at Liverpool, he's going to be tipped to be given the job that he was already available for in the summer. So, look, John Terry, for me, I would love to see him at Chelsea one day as the head coach, as the manager, whatever you want to call him, because I think even when I watch his technical, his training delivery, how he delivers his training, his awareness of the game, on and off the ball, before and after the games, I think John Terry would actually do really well at Chelsea Football Club. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Jose or whoever, but he's definitely got something about him. And he's Chelsea through. Why would you not want John Terry? He's Chelsea through and through. So I think personally for me, if John Terry doesn't want the job and he's happy, this current role he's got is a part-time role, 3 days a week. He gets to play golf and talk to Jimmy Bullard, golf life. If he's happy doing that, then maybe he didn't need to speak out about any of this. But my thing about all of it is he actually does want to manage the club. And I think he's worried that if he doesn't stay within the Chelsea umbrella and do it the way that maybe Zinedine Zidane did it at Real Madrid, if he doesn't stay in that Chelsea umbrella, I think he fears that his opportunities to try and manage Chelsea are slowly drifting away from him. They're slowly drifting away. But I don't know. I'm not John Terry. I just think that that's my opinion. And I think for me personally, I do think it's really strange that the ownership, BlueCo and the sporting directors overlooked someone who's possibly overqualified for those 2 games. Currently where we are, there's not many managers with the highest badge, UEFA Pro license in football, that is just sat around doing nothing and sat there mentoring 18-year-olds. I can't imagine there's that many. I can't. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Should John Terry branch away from Chelsea Football Club in order to get his managerial career kick-started and up and running? Or does he do the right thing, hold out, hope that BlueCo sell, we get some new investment, new owners, and maybe they do look and give him an opportunity to be in that first team dressing room, coaching some of the best players at Chelsea Football Club. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Let me know your thoughts. Linktree link is also in the description. We've got double upload today. We're going to be talking about red cards and March's fixtures in our next video. So hit that notification bell. Don't forget to come back here and watch that video. We'll be back soon.